I went to go to try to put this in my computer because I have a Mac now, and this chipped. I don't know if you guys can see like the little chip here. Like, I don't know if this is gonna work. I uploaded my first video on here, but if it's not gonna work, then it is what it is. I'm going to talk about today is when I used to work at the hospital. And this is, at the end of this video, like what I'm going to talk about is a lesson to be learned for anybody who decides to walk out of work, because there's consequences when you walk out of a job and you don't tell people that you quit. I did that for the very first time, and that's going to be the very last time I do that, because that's not the best decision to make. And I'll tell you why as I begin to my story and end it. So what happened was, I've been struggling to find a job since I graduated college. So I'm like, I'm just going to do whatever I can. So when I finished college over the summer, I went back to warehouse, and then I had my foot pain. It got worse. And that's when I was diagnosed with plantar fasciitis. And then I started finding a job that was less heavy. So I started working in a kitchen at a nursing home. So I started out there. And then like after the nursing home, like I found a job working with children in a photography job. I'm like, finally something with cameras, like something I know what to do like with. So let me just like quit this dietary job and go to do this photography job. That went south. That's another video for another time. So stay tuned for that. I actually have a blog called When Photography Ruined My Life. I should make a part 2 of when the photography job ruined my life. So that job wasn't good. That went south real quick. That was what I was doing last year. I did that job for 3 months, of course, and then I quit. And then I went back to warehouse, and then my foot pain got worse, and then I got diagnosed with like, it was like carpal tunnel, but in your ankle. So I had that, so I had to take physical therapy, so I was unemployed for a while. And then after that, like, I found the job at the hospital because I'm like, let's start all over and work dietary again. And I went to the interview for this hospital, like, around, like, I think December, I think it was, or the beginning of January. And I went to this interview, and the boss was, like, so nice when I met her. Like, she was, like, giving me the interview. I'm like, oh my gosh, this woman's so nice. And then I went down to the kitchen, and everybody was saying hi to me. Everybody was so friendly. I'm like, oh, this is a nice environment, because it was not so nice when I was working in the nursing home. Because, like, working in food, if anybody's, like, knows what I'm talking about, it's very stressful. And it's, like, insanity. And people are so demanding, and they treat you like you're scum because you work in a kitchen. And, like, it's just insane. And a lot of people were quitting at the nursing home. And I had to work a lot of hours. And, but I found the photography job. And I thought, like, oh, a bitch is going to finally have a career. I'm going to, you know, be somebody. And that didn't turn out the way I hoped. So, we're back to square one. So, I decided to work at the hospital. But then I had to get all my, like, clearances and, like, background check and all that stuff. So, I had to get my fingerprint. I had to get blood work, like I had to do the drug test, I had to do that, and that took 2 months to process because I had to take it to the capital of the state I live. And I had to go to another town because this hospital is like, what happened was that where I live in the middle of nowhere. If you guys like didn't know that, like I live in the middle of freaking nowhere. So what happened, this hospital in this city merged with the one in my town, but their like headquarters is in the city. So I had to go to the city to get the orientation. This is like way before we had to wear masks, way before we had to like be quarantined and stuff. Like it was like a little rumor in the beginning when I went to this orientation about the virus, but nobody was like 6 feet apart. It was not like that in the beginning. It got worse like towards mid-March. Like towards the end of March, really, that's when the virus got worse. Like you heard like murmurs about it, but it wasn't like this big thing as it is now. And what happened was that I was at this orientation. It was so boring. It was 8 hours long. Who wants to be in an orientation for 8 hours? And I'm thinking, I'm not even a medical professional. I'm just here to work in the kitchen. Why do I have to be here? But whatever, I stayed. Like I was getting paid for it. They didn't give us a lot of food, which I thought was like really cheap, but whatever. And yeah, so I started working after that, and then we had another orientation. and the one locally where I live. So I went to that local orientation, and I was actually late for the orientation because I got confused which building it was. So everything was like chill or whatever in the one local, and then I was so excited to start because I really wanted to start this job because I was really looking forward to it, because I like to help people. Like, that's like one of the things I like about my, like, what I like to do. Like, I like to help people. Like, I don't want a job like working for corporate America. I like a job where like I'm interacting with people, talking to people and stuff like that, because I went to school for documentary filmmaking. So, like, you know, I just like learning about people and like being like just like interacting pretty much. So what ended up happening was that I started, it was nice like the first like few weeks, and then like after a month in, you just start seeing things and you're just like, oh, just somebody's having a bad day, or it's just like this is a little crazy right now, or everybody's stressed out because this virus was like was like spreading like crazy. So like we had to shut things down, so we ended up like shutting the cafeteria down, only open to staff. So we couldn't use the soda machines, we couldn't use the coffee machines like for ourselves, only like to serve people. But like nobody else was allowed to serve themselves coffee anymore, and nobody was allowed to eat in the cafeteria. If they were gonna eat in the cafeteria, they had to be 6 feet apart. So it was just like, wow, this is like insane. Like in a matter of weeks, like things changed for me, because in the beginning, like everything was normal, and then like weeks went by and like things just totally changed because the virus like really started breaking out. But nobody had the virus in my area yet. It was mostly like in New York, because I live on the East Coast. I don't live in New York, by the way, but New York, it got really bad, in New Jersey, and it was like spreading throughout the Northeast. And I'm like thinking, I'm really praying that like we're not gonna get it. And we did. There was one case from somebody who came from a university, because this is when all the kids from school came back, and they got it from the cities in my state. And then they came, I don't live in a city, so I live in a smaller town, so they came home, and then he got it, like it was a he, I heard, supposedly. This student got it from university, and he brought it with him, and now he was in the hospital. So we had one case, and then insanely in a matter of weeks we had hundreds of cases, and then we ended up having thousands. And the hospital was getting really full, like with people who had the virus. So it was like 3 floors we had like a total of 7 floors at that hospital, and like 3 floors, almost 4, were filled with people who had the virus. So there were times like my job really was like I had to come in the morning. I served breakfast and lunch, so I had to serve the food on plates and give them out one by one. Sometimes we had 60 some people in the hospital, 80 some people. The most I've ever seen was like 90 something, almost 100 people in the hospital. I live in a smaller town. Like I bet in other places there's more, but like where I live, it's like, for me it's a lot to serve that many food, but like in other places maybe that's like something small because I don't live in a city. So I had to like serve like food, and I had to be like fast. I like to work in a fast-paced environment. It wasn't like too insane for me, because like since I'm like a filmmaker, like I like being on my feet and doing multiple things at one time. I can't stay doing one thing. I have to multitask. So I like the multitasking. I like the fast-paced environment. I had no problem. I liked working there. But my problem was really my coworkers. Because what ended up happening was like things started getting stressful. We had somebody quit based on personal family reasons. This person quit, so more of my coworkers had to start staying for night shift. So like you're literally there from like 6:45 to 8 o'clock at night, because that's the time the kitchen closes. And because you have to serve like 3 meals. So in the morning I would serve like breakfast and lunch, and then I finished like around 2:45, and then I went home. But then they started training me to do night shift. And I'm like, it's okay, like I'm fine like being trained night shift. Even though I didn't sign up for it, I decided to like, you know, agree. Because it's nice to do something different. Because like what I did in the morning was like serve food. Then I went to go collect the trays, bring them down, wash them, get ready for lunch, and like wrap silverware. I had to rinse out the pans with the food for the person who was gonna do dishes that day. Like, you know, you're always moving around, you're on your feet and everything. So, you know, I really liked it. You know, like many people were like, oh, that sounds terrible. That sounds like a lot of work. But I actually really liked it. So, and I liked interacting with the patients too when I was upstairs. And, but like my coworkers complained a lot, you know, like we're like always like whining about something. And, you know, I'm like, whatever, like it is what it is. Like they were old. A lot of them were like in their like late 50s, early 60s. And I was just like, like whatever, like they're just old. Like old people complain, whatever. And then like most of them were women. And then I noticed like the women like to gossip a lot, and they were like being like really like petty. And I was just like, okay, like you know, it's just like slowly as time progressed, I got fed up. And there was this one morning, I like, okay, so I was being trained nights, so I wasn't working during the day for a while. And what also happened at this time, which made me a little bit stressed out, was when this new food company came, and they're from the south. So what it is where I live, it's like well, it used to be predominantly white, not anymore. It's predominantly Hispanic now. But there's a lot of people who are of like Polish descent, Slovak descent, Italian, German, and they're so used to cooking their cultural food. And the Southern company came because that's the big hospital's decision, not the local hospital. Like, you know, the big people from the city who own the company were like, we're gonna bring in a different food service, and they're people from the south, so they started bringing southern food into the menu, and they didn't like that, and that pissed them off. And they're just like, oh, we have to do this now and stuff. And it was kind of annoying because I know I had to go, like I had to look like I was working in a fancy restaurant. Like I had to garnish the food when I was serving it. And then like the woman in front of me, oh my gosh, she drove me crazy. She was just like, oh, we have to garnish it now? That's like stupid. And they were acting like a bunch of kids in middle school or high school. And I'm like thinking like, you guys are all like old. Like you're in your late 50s and in your early 60s. And I'm like thinking like, y'all people are like so ridiculous. Like every day I felt like somebody was going through menopause. I swear. Like it was insane. Like how like annoying they were getting. So like I was doing night shift at that point. And I was just like serving like the drinks. I didn't have to serve at nighttime, but I just did like the coffee and tea, and it was easier at nighttime because it wasn't as insane, and I just had to pick up the trays, clean up for like the next day. So I had to like mop the floor, clean the machine, get the silverware done for the next day. And I was doing night shift for a while, and then like what happened was one morning, like they swapped me from night to morning some days. So one day I was working morning. And oh my gosh, the cook, she was nice to me in the beginning, and then down the road, I was like, okay, I really don't understand, like, why you're being so rude to me. They got to the point she got, like, really rude, and I understand she was stressed in the mornings, but it's because she didn't prepare herself the night before, the night before. Well, not the night before, like, the afternoon before, because she's there from, like, 5 o'clock to, like, 2. And she, like, didn't prep herself. You would think that if you're a cook, you would prep yourself for the next day. And she didn't. So she didn't prep for the next day. And she would come in, like, probably in late. And, you know, like, she was just behind. And she had to make, like, pancakes and eggs that morning. And she only had, like, one grill to cook. And what happened was that, like, we were going through everything quick. Because I'm fast. And it was kind of like, I didn't mean to do that on purpose to be quick, but it's just like, that's just how I am. I'm fast paced. And I think she just couldn't keep up making pancakes and eggs. And she got mad at me. And she said I was serving too many eggs and I wasn't. And she was just like, you're serving too many eggs. We always serve it like this way. I don't know why you're serving too many. And she like made a big scene about it. And the woman in front of me, because there were two women in front of me who asked like for people's orders, she's like, don't listen to the cook. Like she's just like being the way she is. And it got to the point like she got so frustrated she went to complain to my manager. My manager wasn't mean to me or mad at me or anything. She just like, just don't serve too much. So I just started like serving like a little bit of eggs. I didn't make a big scene about it. And she like half-assed the pancakes. Like she just like made like these crappy pancakes that weren't even cooked. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting in trouble for what? But you're not like doing your job very well. And you're not like you know, prepared. She was like never prepared. Sometimes we were so late for a meal, we had to wait like an extra 5 or 10 minutes for her to finish, because she was just like not on top of stuff. And if she needed help, like I don't know if it's because like no one wanted to help her, because she was just really difficult to be around and she had like this nasty attitude. And like some mornings she like got so frustrated with me, like sometimes I would ask like, oh, I hated this in the morning, like there was never English muffins out, so I had to go in the freezer and find them, and there's like a shitload of boxes everywhere and you can't find anything, and I'm like freezing and I'm like, this, I can't find the English muffins and I need help. And I ask her, she's like the only one around, and she gets mad and she's like and then she goes and gets it, and I'm like, I like look up now and I'm like, how did I put up with that for like months? And some mornings I would come in and say good morning and she just like either like ignored me or she didn't want to talk to me or anything, so I just like let her be. But like that, she was like one of the people who got on my nerves. And the women who were like there were like women who were like, I was wearing this colored shirt when I was working, and the other women were wearing blue. My like video is gonna end in 2 minutes because I don't have a lot of room on my card, so this video is gonna be like cut up and everything. But these other women were wearing blue, and they're the ones in charge taking the orders of the food and stuff like that. So what happened was that I had to like serve, like I was pretty, like people who wore this color shirt were pretty much like the bitches of the kitchen pretty much, and I learned that months later. And the women who wore the blue shirts were like, oh, I'm of the elite, you know, I could tell you what to do and like stuff like that. So like they were bitchy, they were really bitchy, and they weren't like very nice. And like sometimes I messed up because like I didn't know the differences between gravy. Like let me tell you this, I'm not white. Y'all white people, I don't know what y'all eat, but like I didn't know there was a differences between gravy. Okay, I'm Hispanic, we don't eat gravy. The only gravy I knew was from KFC. I didn't know there was a chicken gravy. I didn't know there was a beef gravy. I didn't know there was a pork gravy. So they're like, don't mix this gravy. I only could have put chicken gravy on the mashed potatoes. I couldn't put any other type of gravy on top of it. Why would you put that gravy on and blah, 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 blah? And I'm like, I didn't know there was a different type of gravy for everything. I'm sorry, I'm not freaking white. Look what color I am. Look at my hair. I'm not white. I didn't know. And sometimes there were foods like, I'm like, what the frick is beef stroganoff? I don't know what this is. You know, and they would get like so angry. And I'm like, y'all really need to take a chill pill. Like, it's not that serious. And then like, ever since like the egg thing, like I was pissed off at like that cook. And I really want to start making t-shirts that say like, I squealed over scrambled eggs. And there was this other woman who pissed me off whenever there wasn't toast. She was in front of me. Oh my gosh, I couldn't stand her. Lord help me. And I call her, I got mad over a fruit cup.